Hallelujah. Shalom Ubrako Lako Yisrael. HEDEQYAH wa Yishmereka. Shalom, shalom, people. This is Chief ZEBULON Ben LEWI HEDEQYAH. Making another video. It's been a minute since I've been live, and technically this video is not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded for quality reasons. Whatever reason the Facebook go live. I don't know what it is, but it affects my camera in a funny way. So I figured I'd just go do a pre-recorded video, and of course the quality be much clearer. So if this is not live, excuse the fact that it's not live, whatever. But I just figured it'd be a better platform. I pray everybody out there is doing well, relatively speaking. For those who in the captivity, and for those of you who believe that you're not in the captivity, all of Israel, I pray that you are well and that you will continue to do well. And if you're not doing well, that you put forth the effort to find that peace, find that peace of mind, and get you to that next level. It would be convenient if I delved into the whole the popular debate online right now, which is henotheism versus monotheism. It'd be very convenient if I did that, but I'm not going to get into that subject. I'm going to get into something else. But what I will say in reference to it is that for those of us who've been around the block for years, I'm going on 3 decades now. These are not new things. Of course, henotheism is nothing new, especially if you as a ex-Malachi York follower. Anyone who knows about Malachi York knows that henotheism is the platform, it's the bedrock of Malachi York doctrine. So this is nothing new for many of us, but I understand that there's some people that are new to the concept, and they're indulging in it, they're exploring it or whatever, and but as far as the debating issue, I get it. Every few months, every year or so, everything moves in cycles. There's always a big controversy, in the community. There's always, whether it's the Tetragrammaton versus Ahia, whether it's Old Testament versus New Testament, whether it's Messianic versus non-Messianic, whether it is Hebrew versus Lashon Kodash, whether it's KJV versus NIV, whether it's fringes versus tassels, and so on and so forth. It's there's never a dull moment in Israel, because for whatever reason we feel like we can't sit still and enjoy what we have currently. There's always something to debate. There's always something to lose our minds over. There's always something to castigate one another over. We never get a feeling of rest, or where we can just chill and be easy and just enjoy each other as brothers and sisters and as a community. So I get it. Like I said, it's the new wave. The whole henotheism thing. It's a new wave, and that's full. That's fine. I mean, for those individuals like myself who've dealt with the whole concept of henotheism in the late '80s, early '90s, it's not a big deal for those of us. But I understand it's a big deal for individuals who might be new to the material, and they don't really know what to do with it or whatever. And again, I'm not going to get into the whole debate element of it, because it just serves redundancy, and I'm just really not into being redundant. But what I wanted to talk about, it pertains to Facebook, and and just overall, why people tend to get emotionally charged on Facebook, and stepping out of their character, or stepping in their character. That maybe that's just the way they are under normal circumstances. But whatever the case may be, I realize and I notice that people, when they're in the midst of a debate on whatever subject it is, it could be sports, politics, theology, language, whatever it is, that when people don't immediately embrace the person's position, and they start getting emotionally charged, and then they start calling people out their names, and the whole back and forth thing, And I guess to a certain degree, we all have done it and do it, or whatever the case. So no one is exempt from it. But a brother asked me, why do I think that is? Why do I think that brothers and sisters, like, why do we get so emotionally charged, on social media? It's just social media. So why do we get all crazy, you know what I'm saying, and start losing our minds because this person doesn't want to accept what you're saying, and this person doesn't want to accept what you're saying? Why do people, get all crazy? And what I told the brother, and what I'm saying, and what I'm going to be telling you, is that in order to understand why people do that on Facebook, why people get all emotionally charged and want to curse each other out and whatever, you got to understand why people are on Facebook to begin with. That's actually the root of it. Now, we could spend all day arguing over the branches and the leaves, but that doesn't solve any of the problems. We need to address why people are on Facebook to begin with. What is the purpose of being on Facebook? And the short answer to that is, people are on Facebook, all of us, and there's no exception to this rule. So anybody might be like, oh, well, I don't feel, well, you don't have to feel it, but no exception to this rule, and that is, everybody on Facebook is on Facebook for validation purposes. We want to be validated. Now, what do I mean by validation? I mean that that we, as humans, as thinking, sentient beings, that we want to know that our thoughts and our words and our concerns actually matter in this world. We want to believe that these thoughts that we have, these concepts that we come up with, the studies that we do, and the books that we get, all of these things that we do, we want to believe that somebody actually gives a damn. That's why Facebook is as popular as it is. That's why Twitter is as popular as it is. Because everybody is seeking validation. Nobody studies for their own benefit. Because after you study and you get what you get your knowledge or whatever, and you start to mull over it in your head, and you're like, yeah, that's the truth, that's deep. But that's a relative statement. You have to go out and actually share this information with somebody, because you yourself don't really understand how valid something is until you bounce it off somebody else. And we all want to feel as if what we're saying and what we're thinking is in fact true. That's why when you post something on Facebook and you get 50 likes or 100 likes, whatever the case may be, it's motivation. Because what are you seeking? You're seeking out somebody or some people who feel that what you're saying resonates with them. And see, and that works out for you because why? Because now you feel like you're not alone. You feel like people understand you. They can relate to you. They can empathize with your feelings. They can empathize with your thoughts. They can empathize with your vantage point on anything. That's why we spend all day putting a post. That's why I'm making a video. That's why we do all the things that we're doing. Because we're seeking validation from other people. Now, why do we seek validation on Facebook? And once again, this is going to show you why Facebook is so popular. We seek validation because in real life, we're not as important as we actually are. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you go to work, let's say your name is Prince so-and-so, Chief ZEBULON, Chief, Prince, Priest, whatever title that you have, Moray, blah, blah. When you're at work, does your employee call you Prince so-and-so? Does your employee call you Chief so-and-so? Does he call you priest so-and-so? Does he call you more so-and-so? No, they do not. In fact, they could care less about what you do in your personal time, your theology, or whatever the case. They don't care. Why? Because, listen, I didn't hire you because of your theological platform. I didn't hire you because of your intellectual ruminations. I hired you for labor. And your existence is only as important as the work that you perform here. You're only worth this check that I'm going to issue you every 2 weeks. So at work, when you're working 8 to 12 hours a day, nobody cares about your theological positions. No one cares about your knowledge of Hebrew or your lack of knowledge of Hebrew. No one cares about your knowledge of history and your knowledge of morphology and every other ology you can think of. No one cares at the job place. For 12 hours of your life, of your day, no one gives a damn. Then you have brothers and sisters who might be in households with spouses who don't give a damn about what you're talking about. They don't care what you're talking about. Why? Because they don't agree with it. So in your mind, you're chief so-and-so, you're prince so-and-so, you're priest, high priest, whatever the case, whatever you call yourself, and that's what you are in your mind. But to the people that you're with in real life, they don't give a damn. In your community, most Hebrew Israelites live in communities where they might be one of just a few of amongst a mass of people in their neighborhood who are into the truth or into the knowledge of the culture, so on and so forth. So from a communal standpoint, you're the only one who cares about Torah. The rest of the community, the person who's going up into the bodega, they don't care about why you wear your tassels, for the most part. Every once in a while, somebody might, you might pique their interest, but 99% of the time, no one gives a damn. Because they're living their life. They're going about doing what they do. You are of no consequence to them. In fact, they'll only even acknowledge you if you're blocking the staircase to the subway. Excuse me, I need to get past. That's it. Other than that, they don't care about you. So we live most of our lives not being acknowledged for who and what we are, or who and what we believe we are. And as human beings, as people, that's unacceptable. Because all of us want to be appreciated. We all want to know and feel that who we are, what we represent actually matters. And the scariest thing that can go through a person's mind is to think that all of this that they're doing, all of the studying that they're doing, the research that they're doing, all of these things that pertains to their existence, the scariest thing to them is that we're doing all of this, it has no purpose outside of your own mind. So some people have actually, there's been some psychologists who have equated those scenarios with a person actually being crazy, because you only exist inside of your head. The rest of the populace doesn't know or doesn't care to know. So the only person that matters or cares about what you are is you, and it's all inside your head. And that's scary for some people. That's scary for all of us. Because again, by nature, we want somebody or something to acknowledge what we do. Why did the Most High say that it is not good that man should be alone? Because validation is needed. When a woman tells her husband out the blue, I appreciate everything that you do, baby. I love you. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're trying to do. Do you know how that makes a man feel? Now he feels like he can go out in the world and conquer the damn world. Why? Because he's like, wow, yeah, no doubt. And that motivates you. That makes you want to go and do great things. It makes you want to go out and make things happen. When you're studying and you going into certain things and someone says, yo, I see what you over there doing, bro. I see the studies that you're putting in. Yo, you that dude, man. I'm feeling you, yo. You know what I'm saying? Yo, you getting it in. That makes that person want to do what? Now he's going to go really bonkers in the study. Now he's going to be in there hard, like, yeah. Because everybody needs that energy. They need that push. That's validation. That's the essence of validation. So what happens is you live your entire life. Your daily life is filled with people and circumstances who could care less about who you are in real time. Because your job doesn't care, because that's not what you were hired for. The community doesn't care because they're busy living their lives. And if you live if you are in a marriage or a relationship in which it's a lopsided situation, the person that you're closest to also doesn't give a damn. So you spend most of your life not being appreciated for who you are in real time. So here comes this creation, Facebook, where now you can get on there and not only can you express yourself, but you can galvanize other like-minded people with similar thoughts, similar aspirations, similar needs and desires to be validated. And you can congregate and feed off of each other's energy. That's great, because it combats the rest of the hours in your life in which no one gives a damn. But on Facebook, you have a group of people who give a damn, people who care. Who cares what goes on in your head? In fact, sometimes they seek it out. They hit you in the inbox. Yo, shalom, Mark. Yo, what you up to, Chief? Yo, what you up to, Prince? What you up to, Adoni? Oh yeah. I'm just hitting up this book, whatever like that. Oh, word. Yo, you find anything good in there? They're soliciting your thoughts, because what you have to think, what you think, and what you're bringing forth matters, and that's addictive. You know why? Because you don't get it in real life. Because in real life, no one gives a damn about what you think, because you're just a cog in a wheel that's part of a larger vehicle. You're just a cog, a small cog in a vast machinery. You have no identity. All your entire purposes is to do this particular job or this particular purpose, and that's it. But on Facebook, you are that dude. You are that woman. You're Chief Zebulon. You're Prince so-and-so. You're Queen so-and-so. You're Akoti so-and-so, Aki, and whatever the case. These are all things that you are on Facebook. And you know what? It feels good. It feels great, because people care about what is going on in our heads. And sometimes we'll pay to hear what's going on in your head. I'm an author. I write books. Do you know how that actually makes me feel? That there's groups of people every month that says, yo, I need to get that book by Chief Zebulon. Why do people feel that they need to purchase my thoughts and purchase my observations and purchase my these concepts and these things that I'm dealing with? Why? Why is it such an issue for people to purchase this? That makes a person feel great and appreciated, that somebody is willing to take money out of an account that they've been working there behind all week and all month, and say, you know what? I'm going to take this money and I'm going to go pay for his thoughts. You know how that makes a person feel? That's motivation. That makes me feel that all of this is just not for nothing. Why? Because in real life, they could care less who I am. I walk past people every single day in my neighborhood, and you know what? It's really of no consequence. Even if they know me, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. whatever. Yeah. He's one of the neighbors, and they go on with their lives. So Facebook becomes the vicar of real life. This becomes the replacement, because on here you can be respected and honored and appreciated for who you actually are. That's what Facebook affords you, and that's why we're always on Facebook. We need that validation. Why do sisters change their profile? Why do they put up like 15 profile pics a week? Upload all of these pictures of them and doing the selfies and the duck mouths and all of that stuff, and change their profile pictures every couple of hours, whatever. Why do they do that? Because they want brothers to come up there and say, wow, sis, yo, you look good, or wow, sis, yo, I like how the cultural dress you got on. I'm feeling you, sis. They want that. They want to believe that someone cares about how they look, or cares about what's in their head, cares about their thoughts as they type them into the text box on Facebook. They want that validation as well. And that's all we want. Everybody wants validation. But this is where the problem comes in. And I think that many of us need to understand this point. And that is, sometimes in attempting to validate ourselves, and we put up posts, and a person might say, yeah, that's cool, but I don't agree with it. That enrages us. That enrages people. How dare you not appreciate and accept what I'm saying? That's when people go out of their minds. Because Facebook is set up mostly for what purpose? For the liking and acceptance of a person's post. That's why there's no dislike button on Facebook. There's no hate button. Notice they'll put the heart up there. Like, yo, I love this post. Why is there not a hate option? Like, yo, this post is trash. So it's set up to create this mind state that everything that you're pushing out is bound to be validated and bound to make you feel good. So when someone actually comes along and says, that post is it's kind of suspect, or that post is trash, your doctrine is garbage, you go out of your mind. You actually start going out of your mind, and now you become like a stalker on Facebook. Every 5 minutes you putting up something. Yeah, people hating on me, and they hating on me, whatever, because the validation is so needed, and the validation has been coming in, that the minute that someone does not validate what you think or believe, it's like you're ready to put a bullet in your head, or put a bullet in their head. And so with that said, we have to get to a point where we recognize what's happening. So while we should want validation, obviously, I mean, again, nobody puts up Facebook posts for, for their own sake, because if that's the case, you can just go text yourself. Just whatever, and go write in an online diary. Just go write your diary, or whatever the case. You put up posts because you care what people think. So when I hear people on there saying, yo, I'm posting what I post, I don't give a damn what anybody says. No, you're lying. Either you're lying, or you are drastically delusional. Everybody cares what people think. If they didn't care, they wouldn't be on Facebook posting. And some people argue, well, no, I'm not on Facebook for all that. I'm on Facebook in order to connect with friends and family. Listen, Mark Zuckerberg. Like that's a Mark Zuckerberg. That's a Mark Zuckerberg definition of Facebook. Oh, it's to connect with family and friends. No, if you want to connect with family and friends, that's why you have phones. That's why you have cell phones. That's why you have text, where you can just text the person, hey, how you doing? The platform for Facebook is not really about connecting like that with family and friends. No, it's about sharing. It's about you putting your heart and your soul and your words onto a screen and watching thousands of people view what you're saying, and you hope that a certain amount actually says, yes, I'm feeling that, and they click like, or they click love, or they click the LOL emoji, or whatever emoji is necessary for the post. But that's what you're looking for. Validation. So when you see the debates on Facebook, you got to look past the surface. The surface issue is doctrine. Right? Oh, this doctrine, or whatever. That's the surface argument. That's the surface issue. But that's not the essence of the problem. The essence of the problem is validation. And when people don't get that validation, they take it personal. They take it as if it's an assassination attempt on their character. That's why when someone doesn't agree with a person's post or a person's doctrine or a person's position, they start getting all crazy up here. All types of disrespectful words start swirling around in their head because they're not accustomed. That's why groups. Why do you think Facebook has groups where you can sign up with a group, whatever, so that you could be in a group with people who already agree with what you believe in? And you get caught into that group mentality. So the minute that you come outside of the group and you have to deal with some other group, and they might not be riding your jock the way that you want people to ride your jock. They might be like, okay, yeah, what you said was cool, but it don't matter to me. Oh, next thing you know, that person's hating. He's hating on me. He's hating on me. Whatever. No, it's not hating. It's just that everybody actually is not interested in what you have to say. That's a fact of the matter. And that's something that I had to learn some years ago when I used to wonder how is it that when I put up a post of whether I'm advertising my books or whether I'm advertising my music or whatever it is that I'm advertising, and especially like in a group where you can see that it's been viewed by, like, let's say 100-something people, but only 2 people respond. Only 5 people click the emoticons, and only 2 people actually respond to say, hey man, good post, or whatever the case may be. That starts to eat people alive. It starts to eat away at your, at your essence, because you're like, yo, how is it possible for 200 people to watch my video? I only get 5 emoticon responses and only 2 actual comments. So you start sitting in you sitting in your office, or you sitting in your your room, whatever it is that you're sitting at, and you're looking at the screen of your on your phone, or you're looking at your computer screen, and you're like, these niggas is a bunch of haters, man. You know what I'm saying? I know they was feeling that song I just did. I know they was feeling it. They just hating it. That's why they ain't respond, or that's why they ain't hit the emoticons. That's the first thing that we start to that we start to we cultivate this mentality, because we can't accept the possibility or the probability that some people just might not care. And that's something that that we all have to come face to face with. The idea, the possibility that you might be the only one that cares about your thoughts. That you might be the only person that thinks that what you're saying or what that's coming out of your mouth is the most incredible doctrine ever. You might be the only person that thinks that. Everybody else is like, yeah, that's cool. And they just keep scrolling and looking at other posts. So you have to kind of get past that mentality. You have, this has a lot to do with what's going on in your own personal self. Because everyone seeks validation, and everyone should want validation. Validation is good. But do not use external validation to cover up a lack of self-validation. And I think that's what a lot of people on Facebook are doing. They have no personal validation. They know in their heart of hearts that they're not as good as they think they are, that they're not as smart as they think they are, they're not as literate as they think they are. And they know this, or at least they believe it. And so they go on Facebook to either validate that they're not that important, or to validate that, yes, I am actually important, and all of these things that I was thinking was all a dream, to quote Biggie. It was all a dream, and that I really am important to people. That's the dichotomy that you face when you're on Facebook. Because on one end, you seek the validation, but when you don't get it, you begin to curse the very people that you sought the validation from to begin with. And in psychology, they call that the Joseph Stalin syndrome, in which, because Joseph Stalin, of course, the former ruler in Russia during World War II, he had a penchant for seeking validation, seeking appreciation, seeking love and admiration from his followers, from the people and the populace, and his his cabinet, his fellow politicians or whatever like that. He sought it desperately, like, yes, please appreciate me, love me. But he would castigate the very people he sought the love and honor and respect from. So on one hand, he needs the validation from you, but then he'll curse you in the same breath. The minute that they say, well, Mr. Stalin, I don't know if I can agree with that. Oh, you idiot, you evil bastard, whatever like that. And next thing you know, he goes from being your friend to being a demon, from being your brother to being a goddamn devil. And many of you guys out there, many of you brothers and sisters, have this syndrome. I also had it. Fortunately, it took many, many, many years, but I was able to kind of get out of that. But many of you have to recognize the fact that that's what you're doing. You seek validation so much that the moment that it's not given to you when you want it, how you want it, those very people that you call your brothers and sisters that you seek validation from, now they become your enemy. So were they your friend or were they your enemy, actually? Like, which one is it? Because it can't be both. And so what we have to do, we have to get to a point where we understand that everyone is not entitled to like what you're saying. Everyone is not mandated to agree with what you're saying. That in fact, it is okay for someone to not agree with you on something. That's okay. It's okay. Because for every person that doesn't agree with you, you'll find someone that will agree with you. So what's the problem? If I don't agree with what you're saying, you shouldn't be saying, oh, he's a hater. Well, your response should be is, well, hey, and you move on. But for some of you, and again, for some of you, it goes far beyond just regular validation. Some of you, this is life and death. Because in your heart of hearts, you have this feeling, this thought. Like Morpheus said, it's like a splinter in your brain that keeps poking and poking and poking, and saying to you, you're not as good as you think you are. You're not as great as you like people to believe. You're not that great. You're not that good. You're not that intelligent. And that's why you spend so much time trying to convince people that you are great. And that's where that overcompensation comes in at. You're trying to compensate for something that you believe really isn't there. But we have to keep up our faces. So when we get on Facebook, to keep up the faces, to keep up our image, we get on there and we put up posts praying and hoping that a multiplicity of people comes in and says, yes, I'm feeling that post. That post is fire. Yeah, let me share it. And that makes our days. Why? Because it goes right back to what I said at the beginning of this video. Because in real life, no one gives a damn who you are. They don't. The people at your job doesn't care that you know Lashon Kodash. Your employee could care less that you are a student of hermeneutics. They could care less if, as a woman, you wear skirts or you wear pants. They could care less if you parse or if you don't parse. They could care less if you're illiterate or not. They don't care. The only thing they care about is, can you get here at 8 o'clock to do your damn job? And you live around people all day who are constantly dismissing or constantly ignoring you for who you are or who you believe you are. So when you come on Facebook, you are trying to compensate for what you're losing in real life. And in the process of doing that, you're starting to go insane. Because now you start saying things not because they're necessarily true or you feel it. You're saying things because you want the acknowledgement. You want the kudos. You want people to say, yes, you are somebody. Yes, you do matter. Forget what your employee says. You matter to me. All of us are on Facebook looking for that validation. Validation in different forms, but validation nonetheless. There's nobody that's on Facebook that's on here for purely altruistic reasons. All of us are on here for some selfish reasons. And I don't mean selfish in a bad way. I mean that we want that love. We want to be acknowledged. We want to be appreciated. All of us want that. It's just that some of us will go to ridiculous extremes to get that validation. Some of us will put up comments and videos that has shock value in order to shock people into giving the likes and to giving the comments or whatever. We all do it. But again, some of us do it for healthy purposes, for healthy validation reasons, to feed a natural longing of appreciation. Again, nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to be alone in this world. Nobody wants to be on an island. Nobody wants to be, no one wants to be Tom Hanks where you're talking to Wilson, where no one gives a damn and you have to talk to a ball. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to be able to say, yes, I mean something in this life, and that my life is not a complete waste of sperm and an egg. Let me just be politically correct. A sperm and an egg. That you're a complete waste. That your life has no value. Facebook gives value to that which doesn't exist in real life in many cases. So that's what we're really faced with. It's not necessarily the doctrines. It's not the doctrinal issues or whatever the case, because at the end of the day, if you believe what you believe and you're assured in what it is that you believe, and someone doesn't believe it, under normal circumstances, it shouldn't even bother you like that. It's like, well, brother, all right, well, you don't agree. That's fine. But I just needed to share that information with you. I hope it's serviceable to you. If it's not, pass it to someone who might be able to use it. Shalom. And keep it moving. That's how disagreements are supposed to end. It's supposed to end with, all right, well, brother, well, hey, listen, I was just trying to share some information with you, whatever like that. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. But I do respect, the dialogue. I'm saying it was a beautiful dialogue, and we just agree to disagree. I'm saying, but you're still my brother. Shalom, shalom. All is well. But we have, of course, forsaken that methodology. When you disagree with me, you're a filthy demon nigger. If I disagree with you, you're now a faggot. Faggot ass nigga. And so you begin to realize that it's not about the doctrine anymore. It's about bruised egos. It's about who the hell are you to not bow to my intellect? Who the hell are you to not acknowledge the prominence and dominance of my intellectual prowess? Who are you to reject that? I'm ready to put hands and feet on you because you don't agree with my understanding. So this is beyond doctrine now. Doctrine is no longer the purpose of the dialogue. It is who can force the other person, their will on the other person. Who can force an understanding on someone else? Because if you don't make that person agree with what you're saying, what ends up happening is you are no longer validated. Then you start questioning what you believe. Why? Because if what you believe and what you're saying is so powerful, how come it's not affecting change in these people? Why is it that they won't accept what I'm saying to them? And you start second guessing yourself. And you start thinking, maybe I'm not that dude. Maybe I'm really not as intelligent as I'd like to think I am. That's what you start thinking. And nobody likes to be face to face with the possibility that no matter how much they try, no matter how much effort they put in, they'll never be more than mediocre. And that's a fear that many of y'all have, because it was a fear that I had in my youth. When I was 16, when I was 14, 15, 16 or whatever, doing all of these studies in Sufism and henotheism, whole Malachi York doctrine, and Sunni Islam and Sufi Islam, all of these things that I was indulging in, Nation of Islam, whatever. And I would discuss certain things and build with certain people, whatever the case may be. And then as soon as someone poses something that might kind of go against what I'm suggesting, the first thing that I used to think is, I used to question myself immediately and be like, damn, well, how come he didn't just buckle to what I just told him? How is it that he was able to come back with a point that kind of ruffled what I was saying? And then I used to start thinking like, well, maybe I'm not as smart as I think I would. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Maybe I'm not as intelligent as people have led me to believe. And anybody that knows me from that time, I mean, super intelligent, but I always second guessed myself. Because I had also low self-esteem, that I always questioned, well, am I good enough? Am I handsome enough for that girl? You know what I'm saying? Are my rhymes good enough to get up in this battle? Always questioning. And some of us go through these things as children, and through help and through certain mechanisms, you grow out of it into your adult years. You become an adult and you've been able to get past that. Some of us have never gotten over that. And so we become, like Nas said, we become subject to a second childhood, where we're in our 30s and 40s and we're still crying out for acceptance like a 14-year-old. And many of us have to recognize that and address it accordingly. But that's why you're on Facebook doing what you're doing, because you want that validation, you want that respect, you want that acknowledgement. But if someone comes along that doesn't acknowledge you how you want to be acknowledged, you revert back to that childhood mechanism of, maybe I'm not who I think I am. And that's when the narcissism kicks in. Now you have to go on Facebook and poke out your chest, yo, I'm so blah, 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 and start going into these long things where you're like, well, all I did was disagree with your premise. I didn't say you were a goddamn devil. I didn't say that you were stupid. I just didn't agree with your with your platform. And so many of us go through these things. Many of us have to deal with these things because we didn't deal with them as children. We didn't deal with them as teenagers. So now we're in our adult years, in our 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, and we're still wrestling the same angel, so to speak. Why? Because we're trying to We're trying to make up for what we might never have actually had in our own life. And that is self-love. We're seeking things outside of ourselves that should have already been present in us from a youth up. That's why people respond the way they respond on Facebook in debates and disagreements or whatever like that. It's not about doctrine anymore. Because I'm in certain groups, and certain brothers can attest to this, Brother Matt, Brother Yirmiyahu, Udiel, whatever. I'm in groups where nobody agrees on everything that I say. Yet, we have some of the best online relationships that you can ever imagine, and these individuals have my phone number. And I don't give them my phone. I don't give my phone number out to just anybody, but they have my phone number. Why? Because we have a rapport and we know how to deal with each other, even in disagreement. We can just agree to disagree, but there's still brotherhood. You see what I'm saying? But that's what the problem is with a lot of our people, is that they have not developed that mechanism of how to deal with people. They haven't worked out the kinks of how to be personable with people, and to understand that a disagreement of your view or your doctrine is not an attack on your intelligence. It just simply means that I have not gotten to the point where I can see the validity of what you're saying. I'm not saying that what you're saying is necessarily wrong. I'm saying I don't see it. It could be wrong, or it could be right, and maybe I'm wrong. But at the moment, I just can't agree with what you're saying. Now, maybe that's just me. Maybe my approach is not what a lot of other people's approaches are. But that's what I'm trying to get across to y'all, is that there has to be higher standards for interaction in Israel. We have to interact on a much higher level than we've been interacting, especially when we disagree with each other. Disagreement doesn't mean hatred. It doesn't mean that I'm hating on you. It's like I think Common back in I think on that song 6 Sense back in like 1999, when he was like, if I don't like you, I don't like you. That don't mean that I'm hating. And that's the essence of this subject that I'm bringing forth today, is that it's not that people are hating. They just don't agree. And what you fail to realize, and this is on both sides. I'm not aiming this at any particular group or whatever, because we all do it. It's not it's not particular, of this particular group, or it's not something that this group participates in. It's across the board. But disagreement doesn't mean that I'm hating, and because I disagree now doesn't mean that I'll disagree forever. Because there's always a possibility that as time goes on, I might see what you're seeing, and I might make changes accordingly. But it doesn't mean that I'm rejecting you forever. Like, no, there's no possible way you could be correct. No, because I think those of us who've been around long enough know that there's always the possibility that what you believe could be incorrect. So we deal with each other along the lines of, I'm adamant in where I stand, but I always leave room for growth, because there's always a possibility that I could have missed something in my studies. And some of us who don't have that element from their childhood, that self-assurance, we always think that if I can't convince this person on what I'm saying right now, that it's a complete rejection of what I'm saying. No, because there's things that I heard in 1986, 1987, 1988, whatever the case, that had no bearing. It was like, whatever. You walk right past this information, and it didn't matter. And then I would hear the same thing 6-7 years later, and all of a sudden, makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So there's a maturity that has to be brought forth amongst our people. Because you can be an intellectual giant and an emotional infant at the same time. Because we don't acknowledge the fact that people grow and evolve at different rates of speed. That's why the old saying in metaphysics is that the sunlight is able to penetrate a window, the glass, at such a rapid rate that the window is unaware of it being penetrated, meaning all things vibrate. The principle of vibration, everything vibrates at different rates of speed. Everybody doesn't learn or comprehend certain things at the same rate. Some people don't jump into new doctrines at the drop of a dime. Some people take time before they make a life-altering change in the way that they see things. Just because something is true doesn't mean that it has to be accepted immediately, because there's a process in which the brain has to acclimate to these changes. Culturally, you have to acclimate to changes in doctrine. You have to acclimate to an alteration of your life. This is a person's life. So they have to move at the rate that they move. If you like to jump into new doctrines every other day, fine, that's cool, because that's how you move. But you can't assume that everybody moves at that rate. And also consider the possibility that they might not want to move at that rate because they might be pretty sure that you're wrong in what you're saying. So all of these things said, so I say all of that to say this, that we have to get to a point where we don't think that someone disagreeing with our position has any negative bearing on us as individuals. No, it just simply means they disagree. It's no hate. It's, there's no demon on that person. There's no devil in that person. None of that. I just don't agree. You don't agree with me. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with disagreement. But I also understand that that comes with maturity. And it comes with patience. And patience is that funny little thing that separates teachers from dispensers of information. No patience? Wrap it up. Don't even bother trying to be a teacher. And anybody who has children understands this concept. Patience. That's the real lesson. Without patience, you should not want to be a teacher. Go be a carpenter or something. Go write poetry. Do something else. But if your thing is to be a teacher, the first lesson in teaching is not the information. The first step in successful teaching is how to empathize and relate to your students, to the people. When the people see that you can relate to them and that there's a camaraderie, they're way more likely to hear what you're saying and strongly consider the weight of what you're saying. But if you're teaching somebody and the minute they disagree, you call them a stupid nigga, or you call them a bird, or you call them a faggot, a homosexual, or whatever the case may be, you've missed the whole point. And so that's what we need to start making changes. Some of us need to start being big men and stop acting like we're still 14. Be big men and accept the reality that not everybody is going to agree with you, and that's on anybody's level of doctrine or whatever it is. Nobody is entitled to agree with you until what you're saying makes sense to them in their time and in their mind. Just because you understand it right now doesn't mean that they should accept it on the fact that you understand it. No, I don't understand it right now, so I'm not going to accept it until I do. We talk about rappers getting into contracts. They don't read the contract. They just go ahead and sign the contract. You're like, yo, man, you got jerked because you should have read the contract. You should have understood what you were signing. Why don't we apply that same thing here? When you push out a doctrine It is a contract. Because what are you saying? You're saying, this is the new understanding. This is the understanding. And you need to accept this. Well, I need to take this contract home and read it over and maybe let my lawyer, teacher, elder, check it out, read it over, make sure it's right and exact. And have you ever seen those executives, those record label executives, where you try to, and I because I've dabbled a little in the basics of the industry, contracts and stuff like that. And one of the craziest things to see is if when you tell a record label owner, like, yeah, listen, yeah, I'm gonna take the contract home, I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna let my lawyer check it out. The first thing they want to do is what? They want to bully you into just go ahead and sign it. Don't worry about it. You sign it now. The lawyer can check it out after the fact. They're trying to finagle you into signing a contract that you don't even understand at the moment. That's how you get jerked. That's how you get jacked up. So it's the same situation when you're dealing with doctrines or whatever the case. If I have a particular understanding and I push it out to whatever audience that I'm dealing with, if I'm a right and exact type of person, I'm going to tell them, listen, this is my position on the matter. Go ahead and do your own research. And after you research it, we can build further. That's what you're supposed to tell people when you're introducing them to something that they probably never heard of. You have to give them time to digest this information. Because the information is going to change how they live their lives. It's going to change how they perceive their surroundings in their life. So you have to give them time to grow. And even if they don't sign the contract at the moment, leave the contract on the table. Let them figure things out. But the only people who try to force you into a contract that you don't understand are evil bastards. These are the people that Q-Tip was talking about in his song when he said, industry rule number 4080. Record company people are shady. So kids, watch your back, because I think they smoke crack. I don't doubt it. Look at how they act. And that's what we're doing. That's what some of these brothers and sisters are doing. They're trying to force people into a contract that they know that the person doesn't understand. Why would you let people sign into something and accept something if they don't fully understand it, with the hope that somewhere down the line they'll understand it? That's wicked. And that applies to anybody who does it. So this is not an attack on anybody in particular. This is to whoever, just so that we're clear. If you're wicked, you'll find offense to what I'm saying, because I'm calling your wickedness out. Now, if you're not wicked, then what I'm saying is of no consequence, and you can go about your day and do what you do. But I'm only bringing this out so that we, of course, as a people, as Israel, if you acknowledge that you're Israel, that we as a people, we have to deal with each other better. We have to deal with each other more maturely. If we say we're grown men, we move like grown men. And grown men know that you can disagree and all can still be well. We can still break bread. We can still get up in the scriptures. We can still do whatever we've been doing, but we just don't agree on this particular issue at this particular time. That's all. That's the maturity right there. And that comes in time. And I'm not saying this, condescendingly to anybody, because I've been there. And people who knew me back in the 90s knew that I was a really arrogant person. I didn't have, I didn't have the couth and the patience and the understanding that I have today. I was a completely different person in those days because I was younger. Because I really didn't understand the real meaning of teaching and what teaching entails. So I've been there. I've seen beyond that mountain. And that's what I'm saying to y'all, that many of you have not been there. You haven't seen past the mountain, and I'm trying to give you an understanding of what you're going to see and how you can avoid it. Why waste so many years of your life being bitter and thinking that everything is personal against you when it's really not that serious? Messengers, if you're a messenger, all your job is to deliver the message. What these people do with the message after that is on them. That blood is on their hands. Just do your job. If you have a particular belief, Put your belief out there. Yo, this is what I believe, and this is the evidence for my belief. If it's true, if it's potent enough, you don't have to force anybody to accept it, because eventually they'll see it and be like, "Yo, this is some powerful stuff right here," and they'll accept it when it's their time to accept it. But again, like I said earlier, that's the problem, is that it's really not about doctrine anymore. People want you to accept certain things because it validates themselves. That if you accept what they're saying, it validates that their research and that their this, that, and the third is legitimate. But when people are rejecting it, they feel it's an attack on their very being. And that's what we got to get out of. We got to get out of that. If not, we'll find ourselves fighting over everything. And someone like me and those who are similar to me in the sense that we seek for brotherhood, seek for love, admiration for each other, just that general brotherly love. Those of us who seek that, we steer far from that nonsense. We stay far from that, because that's not our agenda. Our agenda is brotherhood, and that you can disagree with intelligence. You can disagree and not even make enemies. That's maturity. You need to get some of that. It takes time. It takes patience. But it's all obtainable. Because those of us who used to be full of crap back in the days, who used to be on some, if you don't accept what I'm saying, we got problems. We did that decades ago. When do you grow up? And that's all I'm saying. So with that, Yisrael, I just wanted to, just to share that and understand that this is not a lopsided situation. Again, this is not to anybody in particular. This is to all parties generally, because we all need help. We all need to grow up. Some of us have grown up, but we were once in a place where we were not mature. We were out of our damn minds. And we don't want y'all to be out of your damn minds. So this is a love rebuke. This is a love gesture to say, hey, listen, agree or disagree all you want, but let's do it like brothers and sisters. Let's do it like men and women. Let's do it like mature entities and not like beasts of the field. No chayil, no chayil basade. No beasts of the fields. Let's be Adam. Let's be that elevated man in these situations. That's all I'm saying. So with that said, Israel, hallelujah, shalom, shalom.